and welcome to the Big Scuba Podcast YouTube channel. We are going to be talking about deep, and this video is all going to be about our visit to deep in Bristol.
Yes, so we went there for the whole day and were hosted by Phil Short, who planned the day for us. And we visited the two sites that Deep operate from. Yeah,
so the site used to be Endac, as a lot of divers all know, and in Chepstow, the other side of Bristol. And the Deep have bought it, and they are developing it, and they're getting it all prepared for ocean research. And you'll see coming up in this video where they take us around this great big
warehouse.
Well, it's a big warehouse, yeah, but inside it is what they call the Sentinel, which is going to be the living quarters, which will go down up to about 100 metres? 200 metres even.
Yep. So it's well, they call it Sentinel. It's an underwater habitat, basically.
Yeah.
And it's all modular. So the one we went in was...
They can build upon them, can't they?
2 stories, but obviously you can add units onto them, and that's how they're going to be transported and constructed within... like modular form.
Yeah, and you'll see we get taken around different parts of the warehouse of different workstations that they've got. We also go to the old site, the campus site after lunch, don't we?
Yes,
we get to we meet Chris, who's their
director of the campus side of things.
Yeah. Yep. And he gives us a guided tour and a speech about what the plans are for the future of the site. And we have a look round to see what's going on the water with these great big 40-ton flotation...
concrete platforms,
aren't they? And they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they've showed us where they've netted off the quarry sides to prevent the rocks falling or to... prevent any issues. Yeah,
and then later on we get to sit in one of their submarines back at the warehouse in Bristol, which are awesome. You know, there's only a few of these submarines in the world. They've got 2 of them, £4 million each.
Yeah, Triton subs, and Barry was our sub pilot, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. So you get to meet Barry, and you get to hear all about what Barry's how he got into flying a submarine, and he got into that work, and also he guides us around the submarine, the different parts, and actually being inside it. So that's all coming up at the end of this video. So let's do it, shall we?
Yes, we should just say thank you to Narked at 90.
Absolutely, yeah. Our lovely sponsors, narkedat90.com.
And they supply all sorts of diving gear for the recreational and particularly the technical diver. If you head over to their website, www.narkedat90.com.
And you can also use our Big Scuba code, which is Big Scuba 2024. So make sure you contact them for any of your diving gear. And they are beyond technical.
They are. So we better go to deep.
Right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the Big Scuba Podcast. But today we are doing something different. We are going to be doing a roving report at deep.com, and here Gemma.
Hello.
And also Phil Short. Hi. Phil, tell us about what Deep is and what your role is, and a little bit about you.
No problem. So basically Deep Research Labs Limited is an organisation set up to enforce protection, research and education of the oceans. Prime means by which we're doing that is to generate underwater subsea habitats that scientists can live in for weeks at a time to study the oceans, to learn about them, to look at ways we can conserve and look after them.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is have a tour of the facilities. At the moment we're here in Portside, which is our laboratory, our manufacturing facility. So we're going to send the guys through a look at all our test facilities, our wave tank, our dive test tank, our pressure pot, our submarines. So we'll let them have a look through the submersibles and see how they work, because they happen to be in workshop today for some servicing.
Right.
Our additive manufacturing system, whereby we can print in metal. And then after lunch, we're going to take them over to what you guys will know as the former Endac, which is now our campus or our research lake. And we'll give them a guided tour down onto the water side to the subs island, where their gantry crane launched into the water for sub-pilot training, answer any questions they've got, give them a sit in the subs, and hopefully give them a thoroughly excellent educational day. Right.
Brilliant.
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, right. Hope you enjoy it.
Right,
Excellent.
let's go then.
Right.
Our first port of call, Phil has taken us over to a 3D model of the campus. So we can see how the layout of the waterside is looking, or will look, with
Yeah, it's a
buildings
great big
being-
table with all these 3D layouts of bits and bobs and where the building's all going to go.
It was like being in a ship with like the command thing.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, it's really good. And, you could visualise how it's all going to go.
Yeah. And then we've wandered over to the 3D printers as
Yeah,
well.
WAMs.
So they're called WAMs. One was in action, this laser printing on metal, and they're going to be used to make the actual modules when it comes
You
to...
can literally make anything out of these printers.
It's really hard to get your head
Yeah,
around,
they're
isn't
not
it?
your everyday printer by HP that you might have on your desk. These are a great big type. If you're a nerd and you're into
No,
technical
you can't
stuff,
see people are nerds.
well, people are, and they are, yeah, and people get excited by machinery and lathes and stuff. And these machines are whirring away, and you can build all sorts of things out of metal.
Yeah, so they were in these like big boxes,
Cabinets, yeah.
like cabinets, good couple of meters, 3 meters
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
And all in action. And we
And
had
we're in this great big warehouse, aren't we? And you'll hear from our on-site talks that there's a big warehouse. There's lots going on, and a lot of the things are all in these pods that can be transported. So when the campus is ready, they will be moved and transported to the campus. So
Like
everything's all in one place.
shipping containers. That's how we'll explain it.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay, and so we've done the WAMs, and Phil is now going to take us on a tour of the Sentinel, which is the underwater habitat, and it's actually a mock-up, life-size, made out of wood.
It is, yeah, and you can get to see and be in it and see how things are all going to be laid out.
Yeah, so we're going to take you inside.
Here we go.
Phil's going to give us a tour. So now back to Phil.
So this stairwell and door wouldn't exist. It's just an easy way to take us into a simulator. So we'll go segment by segment. As I said, these stairs, just come inside, they're not there. So we've got this little door to cover it up to make it a little bit more realistic. These circles are the actual size of viewports. Viewports are curved. So basically the amount of light in here, even something like on the Cayman Wall, places in the Caribbean like that, 150, 160 metres, you've still got ambient light. So you imagine like going to bed at night, laying in your bunk and looking up through that to the blue above you. It's going to be pretty amazing.
So this is going to be like a dome over, is it?
This is the only end that's not roofed. And the reason for that is, this where I'm standing is the moon pool. So in the functional Sentinel, this is the way in and out of the water.
Okay.
The way in and out of the water will be a diver lift, very similar to on the back of a South Coast boat. Bit posher, a lot more features to it, but in essence, a lift cage, 2 divers can stand inside it, ROV in front of them, the whole lot lowers down. The tethering or umbilical goes down with them. There'll be lead-ins on top of it to stop any entanglement. Off they go for their dive.
So they'll always be attached to the habitat?
Yeah, so basically, without turning this into a let's teach people how to commercial dive, deep water commercial diving uses surface supply via a system called Reclaim. So it's not a rebreather, but it does the same job. And the reason they reclaim is helium's so expensive. So on the rigs, the gas is on the surface, it goes down a massive umbilical to the closed bell. From the bell it goes on smaller umbilicals out to the divers, it goes into the helmet, they breathe it, comes out of the helmet, goes back down another hose to the bell, from the bell up to surface, CO2 scrubbed, oxygen's replenished, goes back down to the bell in a circuit. So effectively it is a rebreather of sorts.
So it's same as a submarine?
No.
It's not?
No. It's basically the same as a rebreather.
Okay.
Submarine's just an atmospheric environment with CO2 scrubber and a leaky valve to replenish the oxygen at atmospheric.
Okay.
Now that reclaim works on the principle that if you're at 100 metres, that gas is going to go back to the surface by Boyle's law. It's just going to float up. So reclaim has always been notoriously unreliable in shallower water. So a 50 metre sat, a 20 metre sat, really hard to make reclaim work. 100 metres, 150, 200 beyond, very, very easy. The object of Sentinel is to be completely self-contained. So we can't use reclaim because we'll not have a hose to the surface.
Okay.
If you were to do a 21-day dive cycle from a Sentinel with open circuit, i.e. blowing the gas out and letting it float away, your supply of helium would be bigger than the Sentinel, and the cost for a single mission would be prohibitive by any standard. So the logic is, what you'll do is you'll dive from here on a rebreather as we know them. None of the ones you know because they're not rated deep enough, but of that style, electronic, closed circuit, mixed gas rebreather, rated to the performance depth of the Sentinel. That will be your primary. You'll also then have a surface supply hose, but the name for it is a habitat supply hose because it will come from an onboard bank of appropriate gas on the Sentinel to the diver. He'll go out, do his 3-hour, 4-hour dive on the rebreather. In the unlikely event the rebreather fails, he just switches to that hose, comes straight back. So we use a minimal amount of gas to get back on hose supplied open circuit. So we've effectively flicked it round. In the North Sea now, they dive reclaimed surface supply with a semi-closed rebreather as the bailout just to get back to the bell in emergency. We're flipping it round so the rebreather becomes the primary, the hose becomes the backup.
Yeah. And what about like communications? Is that all through
all comms, full comms. So basically mouth open in the helmet.
And that's via the umbilical back to here.
Back to here. So that umbilical will have multiple strands. It'll have electricity for heated suits. It'll have wire for video for the helmet camera, wire for comms for audible communications, wire for light power to the hat-mounted lights, and then basically the gas supply for the bailout and telemetry from the rebreather. So the supervisor in the supervisor shack there will actually get the diver's rebreather display on screen. So
they're on helmets like Kirby Morgans or something?
No, we're building them. Yeah. So basically, these are scientific divers. We don't want them in a 17-kilo Kirby. If you've ever dived a Kirby, the field of vision is awful. So you've got a flat sheet of glass about that big with a big oronasal. You think it's big. You think, wow, it must look great. It's awful. It's like looking through a tube. Yeah. And it's very heavy. If you do like a 3-hour shift in a Kirby, 37 or 27 or something, fibre or stainless, either way. If it's fibre, it needs the weight to sink it. If it's stainless, you lose some of the weight, but it weighs the same. But the neck ache is horrendous, and you certainly can't get flat and horizontal and swim along. So the other method of diving commercially, more common for scientific diving, police diving, civils diving, it's called a band mask, where you've got that same visual field, oronasal and controls, but actually built into a neoprene hood with a zip and a spider of straps that hold it on. It's called a band mask. And in inshore diving, that's
full face masks.
It's normally used as the helmet for the standby diver because it's so fast to put on.
Right.
It's pre-rigged, all the straps are in place bar one. You just go boom, zip, plug, jump. You can go out and assist the diver with a problem. The diver's wearing the hard hat in case things get dropped on his head because he's a working diver.
Yeah.
We don't need either. So we're looking at basically big field of vision, nice and bright. It's the cliche. Think back to Abyss, a big clear mask where you can see them, they can see you, you can see everything. But lightweight, not helmet based, because people that are going to use this are not hammer swinging commercial divers. They're scientists going out there for some form of science.
Yeah.
And of course, as with the habitat, nothing we need exists, so we're building it in-house. Right from day one, I was talking to Mark about this when he first arrived. Before a pen touch paper for the design of Sentinel, we bought DNV in from Germany, who will class it. And basically, we're like, right, we're thinking of this. That's ridiculous, right? What about this? That's good. Can proceed. Bring them back in. So from day one, the people that will class or certify it, two main choices in the world are Lloyd's or DNV. We've brought in DNV. So they're helping us design it to standards that will enable it to pass full DNV classing as a manned habitat. And the same with any equipment we build to enable people to dive from it. Because obviously...
Anything like this exists in the military?
So it's a complicated answer, but where the concept of saturation diving came from was US Navy trials on how to physiologically saturate a diver from way back in the 60s with a thing called Sea Lab. And they basically put something like this, but much smaller, on seabed to leave divers there long enough that they'd saturated, then work out how to decompress them.
To do the US Navy tables.
That's right. What they realised by doing it was there was no need to leave them down there. You could lower them under pressure, bring them back under pressure, and they could live on the surface in a pressurised habitat.
Yeah.
So the seabed habitats fell out of favour. We're kind of turning it back on its head and going back to that because it's different user. Yeah. Let's carry on round so you can see all of it. So casualty rails throughout. These are Harken, if any of you have sails. They're IMCA rated for commercial diving, so 6-point casualty lift. So you can bring a casualty out of the moon pool and then take them straight through to the evacuation points, all pre-built in. Supervisor's shack here, so this will be instrumentation and screens. Each diver out, their equivalent of the shearwater, if you like, will be on screen as well because of telemetry from the rebreather. That will also transmit to the forward operating base, the shore base for Sentinel.
Yeah.
So you've got lots of levels
How
of
far would a diver be able to?
100 metres.
They'll
Yeah.
be able to go out
100 metres at the moment is the first, because what we did, we chose to set up deep and
in any direction.
oh yeah, any direction from it. So you go out that hole, you can go where you like. You can go to the back, to the front, to the left, to the right, whatever.
How many divers?
6 on board, 2 out. So you got 2 out, 1 dressed as standby, 1 supervisor. Those numbers work. So the only time they'd ever be 3 out is the one was out to rescue the other 2.
Right.
But that would be unlikely because we're working towards other means of diver rescue.
So for a group of researchers, scientists,
4 researchers, 2 crew.
they could basically do one area and spend like a week or 2 covering
Exactly.
that 100-metre section
Yep.
and measure it all out,
Yep.
and then move it along.
The main
Do
reason for the 100 is like example, what might you want to study? So one of the sites we've looked at as the first sea deployment is for studying of Posidonia beds.
Yeah.
You can't land something this big on the Posidonia bed because you've just destroyed what you're trying to study and protect.
Right.
So you park this on flat sand near it, and then you need the dive range to get to the study site.
Yeah.
So you'd position this very carefully to allow access straight to the study site. So realistically, you'd go, right, study site's there, we'll park Sentinel there. So for that month-long project, virtually all the dives will be to the same place because it's what they want it for. But if you were lucky enough to find a patch of sand big enough for this in the middle of a surrounding reef with what you're trying to study, then yes, you could dive any direction.
100 metres is quite a lot of umbilicals.
It is,
It is,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But bear in mind, it's not umbilical. This is a simulation of the size of a normal Kirby Morgan umbilical, just for some of our trials we've done here. But 100 metres is outside the building.
Yeah,
So we did that when we did it.
Yeah.
So 100 metres of umbilical is normal. It's perfectly manageable as long as there's no current, because the current picks the umbilical and pulls the diver. But it takes a lot of managing. But don't forget, dive will be on rebreather. So that behind you is an actual DP1 umbilical. See how much smaller it is?
Wow. Yeah.
So again, we're not going to use DP1, it's nowhere near depth rated enough, but we're looking at designing a smaller umbilical to serve the fact that it's only going to be used for bailout, never prime. But again, would be classed CE'd, whichever version we choose to go
What
for.
is the maximum depth you could go to with this? With
200
divers?
metres.
200 metres.
Yeah.
How far off the seabed does it sit? Can you
About 4
change
metres.
that?
So basically water level in the moon pool down to seabed is about 4 metres.
Yeah.
What isn't here, because you think this is big, what isn't here is the stand.
Yeah.
So stand goes in first, Sentinel is then lowered down on the control,
Okay.
parked on the stand. Sentinel can then be moved elsewhere. Current principle is that the stand will be removed, put to the next site, but the stand, the legs, are being built out of material that encourages coral and marine growth. So if a country where it's placed agreed and wanted it, the leg could be environmentally safely left behind because it would become an artificial reef.
Makes sense.
So we've got that option,
Yeah.
which is good. Carry on through, because the reason there's a shower room and toilet here, is this bulkhead is not a pressure seal, but it's an ECU seal, Environmental Control Unit. Problem with habitats over history, I've worked in Aquarius in Florida, which is the only existing working habitat at the moment, is they're 100% humidity and very damp, and infection is a big issue. What we're going to do with Sentinel is that this bulkhead will be a environmental seal, not a pressure seal. So it'll be the same pressure either side, but during dive ops, the moon pool will be open. This whole area will be 100% humidity, heavily affected by the temperature of the sea, so pretty unpleasant. Dive ops finish, take a shower to clean yourself off, get the salt off, transfer through into this end, doors shut, and then the ECUs kick in with the closed moon pool and dry this end out. So 6-hour dive cycle, about 3 hours later this end will be dry, then you can come and go doing science, cleaning gear, prepping the gear for the next day.
What humidity are you planning on?
Not defined as yet, but much more comfortable than 100% as you get in Aquarius. Big problem with air is between the toes, between the fingers, crutch, foot, ear infections. Big problem, really common with SAT. So probably not surface atmospheric, but certainly much more manageable from that point of view.
I can get down to 70% or something to be well off.
Plant room. So basically the boxes is to simulate various bits and pieces that might be needed in here. Viewports everywhere. That is just a stairwell for safety. That would be a viewport. None of these stairs in and out. It will exist, of course, on a real thing, like so. And then in the plant room, there is a roof hatch. I'll explain what that's for in a minute. I just wanted you to see where it is. Okay? But it's kind of connected to the fact that these rescue traverse lines come right the way through the entire habitat and would actually zigzag round to here. These things are on loan to us from Harken to try them. We're going to basically run with them for the standard. To give you an idea what these are used for, you know the gherkin in London?
Yes.
These are on, all the stripes you see between the glass panels are these. So they can clean it without scaffolding. They come from yachting, but Harken also have a commercial division, and that's what these are. So they've got a massive weight. Yeah.
So I presume that's so you can lock on from outside, is it?
No, you'll see when we go upstairs, because that's not the outside. This thing's huge. We're only downstairs at the moment. Galley here. The cooking method, we've got a Michelin-starred chef in the company, believe it or not, because we own a hotel as well, but he's also dealing with nutritional, calorific food design for a 21-day deployment of civilised human beings, not commercial divers. So the food method that seems to be coming up trumps is sous vide. It's basically the high quality food is pre-bagged and then goes into sous vide, which effectively warms it up, and it's absolutely so it went like it's posh boiled in a bag, but it's like one of the most state of the art chefing methods. Yeah, I mean it's really up there cooking technology, but
And it's
basically it
hygienic
means you
as
can
well.
go super hygienic, super high quality, very healthy food, but easy prep with what you can have in a SAT system. Okay.
And storage, I suppose,
Exactly.
as well, isn't it?
Table and chairs there, etc. Water dispenser, etc., etc. This panel lifts up and there's stairs underneath it. You see there's a hatch in the floor here. This is the grand hall. So think Jules Verne, Captain Nemo in the Nautilus, looking out with his organ, playing music. This is the grand viewing hall. So at the end of your working day, you can just come and sit in here, chill out, write up your paper, etc. And it's just all windows. But both ends are identical. So under that hatch is an absolutely identical moon pool without the diver lift. So if you're ever out diving, come back, that one's blocked for some reason, like the lift collapsed or failed or blah, 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 you can come in this end. If you're here in the evening and there's a fire in the middle, you can go out this end. On seabed, there'll be a small habitat called a refuge, plus 2 additional means of escape, which I'll show you in a moment. But that's why you've got under storage, but direct to a ladder-served alternative moon pool. The moon pool hatch is the same size. The access hatch is smaller because it's just an emergency exit. Meaning fabrication-wise, the ends are the same. If you've noticed, basically as we walk through, these middle sections are segments. So what you've actually got here is 3 big rings and 2 domes. In the future, you could have 4 rings, 5 rings, 6 rings. No dome on that end, one of these vertical stuck on the end. Think like those modular hamster cages.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. So if you go on the website and look at 3 of them together, 6 of them together, that's what this is aiming at.
What do they expect the weight to be?
Oh, these things, I mean, I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to guess a number, but, hundreds of tons, the whole thing. But, like anything, how heavy is your gear on land? How heavy is it as soon as you get in Vobster? Yeah. It's like on bottom, our biggest problem is sinking the damn thing. Because don't forget, this is full of air.
Yeah, and transportation, obviously, on a ship have you got...
In pieces. So that's the point. It comes like a Meccano kit,
Right.
3 rings. The rings come with nothing in them. They've got rails. Everything in here has to be able to get through that moon pool. And when it comes in, it slides onto the rails in the rings. They're called cassettes.
So the actual construction, putting the pods together, is done on
on the surface on the pontoon,
right? Okay.
probably shore-based, and tow it out and,
Yeah.
and submerge it. Moving on, we've got various storage areas. That will be the med room, so high-tech med equipment, etc. Primary control panel. Come along down and get to the bedrooms. So if you've ever seen pictures of the inside of Aquarius, it's grim. It's a 6-bunk, 3 high, like submarines. You know, you're bunked in. Here, you've got individual bunk rooms. This is a scientist or a crew bunk room. You've got fold-down table, so you've got personal space. You've got iPad equivalent of TV. Obviously, we're designing all of this because it's got to be SAT capable. It's got to be helium-proof for those type of depths. All feasible technology. Someone's just got to get around to doing it. And there's your window.
Amazing.
You lie in bed and watch the fish.
Room with a view.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, the section we're in now, this polystyrene isn't about budget. This is actually from AutoCAD, a moulding of the design. So a lot of the other things you've seen are replicated with thin sheet wood. This is actually as it would be. So this is the shape, the windows and everything. So
it has a good degree of insulation, I imagine.
it won't be polystyrene. It's only polystyrene for weight for this mock-up.
No, but presumably you must have insulation.
Oh yeah,
designed
sorry,
into the
sorry,
system.
yeah, on the outside. So
On the outside?
Yeah,
Okay.
so not on the pressure hole. Bear in mind, this is designed to be capable of holding the pressure both ways. These ones are not more luxurious. They're bigger, but that's because this one and the opposite one are the Habitat Commander and the Habitat 2 IC, and all this extra space is emergency equipment. In each of these, there'll be a full ECU control panel for the entire Habitat surface comms. So basically, the crew, the real astronauts, have got more in here for functionality, not for luxury.
Yeah.
Could you charge out for, like, you know, these people who spend a lot of money on doing these extreme tours?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So could
yeah.
you do
very much
see
so?
that you could
Yeah.
do the
You
same
think
with
what they're
this?
paying to get like slingshotted for space
Yeah.
for 30 seconds in Branson's thing? Absolutely, it's very
And
much
obviously, you know,
because
people-
if you were to do that, 4 tours a year in one that was placed for that purpose, that generates the funding to give it to scientific institutions who can't afford it. So you basically work out ways of funding it so you can donate it to the people that are going to do real oceanographic
Real
science
good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they haven't got the money to do it.
Well, it's
So
finding that balance. isn't it?
exactly.
Finding the
Sean, who you
commercial-
just met, that's his job.
Right.
That is his job, and he's been worldwide to the appropriate people like, you know, the people who go to space or
Yeah.
the bottom of
Yeah.
the ocean, to basically
'Cause there's
you know,
a surprising
put the
big
feeler
number.
out for interest, and there's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Last room down the end. Main bathroom at this end, so you can see it's considering you're in a Habitat, it's pretty luxurious. I think it's bigger than my bathroom actually. And then we come to the end of the dome. What would happen here is, just like the other end, the dome would come down from here, joining that, and in the top of this dome, just like that other end, is another aperture up. About where my hand is, there'll be a mezzanine deck across here. You'll go through this area up onto that mezzanine deck, up from that straight into the primary means of getting to and from this on a normal day where everything's perfect. So you're not going to be like cramped in a ball and brought down and in like that. You're going to basically you're going to fly to work in comfort, dock onto the roof, get out, walk down the stairs. You're in for your 28 days. It stays there because it's
The people that obviously come down in this submersible, are they brought down to pressure up there?
could be either.
Right.
Technology of this means it could be either way. So you could bring the whole crew down not under pressure and pressurise here,
Yeah.
or you could bring someone down in the middle of a deployment, pressurised on surface, and they can just come straight into here.
And get to work.
The options of the design mean any version of that could be achieved. Yeah. And that would be very, very useful for effectively, let's look at someone's down here for 21 days, has an appendicitis. Yeah, you can get them out to surface, and somewhere like the NHC up in Aberdeen, you do that in chamber. So you've got the capability of taking someone out under pressure, depressurising it down here, depressurising them on the surface. The means of transporting them will be able to depressurise as well. Lots of different options. So there we go. So that's Sentinel.
So that was Phil just giving us the guided tour around the Sentinel, and for next we move on.
We're going to go and walk by the pressure pot and then head up to the wave machine.
Yeah, who's seen the film The Dam Busters? So imagine this great big long tank with a free flowing water which they can change at different speeds, and they computerized 3D print boats and all sorts
Propellers,
of crafts,
yeah.
different propellers, and they can play with different designs to see which ones work best in different speeds, different currents, and they can do all these whizzy stuff.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
Let's get there.
What he's got in there is a pressure pot and a gas and a spectrometer. So he takes objects, he puts them in a pressure pot, 200 metres, leaves them for a month, and monitors the gases that are being let off out of them by that process to see if it's safe for them to be used in the habitat. So that's his job. Everything we think we might want to put in a habitat, like bedding, towels, everything, gets pressurised to 200 metres, left there to see what happens. Exactly. So that bloody expensive box there is a spectrometer. So,
Like paracetamol.
exactly. Don't know, everything's got to be tested. Everything. So obviously we also want to know if we put this thing at 40 metres, a big wave going over is going to affect it. So we have to make a scale model of it and test it. We test it here. See the current. It's flowing already because it's got propellers under the floor, so it can do waves with their paddles, but it can also circulate. So the propellers under the floor are pushing it that way and round. Yeah, so it can basically, we can build anything to scale. And
So that you use a scale model in here of the habitat?
Yeah, so we'll be doing scale models of the habitat. We've already 3D printed a little boat that we've tried to sync on several locations. So we can do a variety of things there. So an external test as well. So it might not even be scale model. Like for example, we could do propellers, so efficiencies, things like that. I don't know if there'd be in direct dive applications. I guess like testing parts under a variety of places and waves. Fluctuations perhaps.
we did write a risk assessment because these guys are so clever. They're going to design different types of props for different advantage, and the current is because there's two propellers under the floor. So the props are pushing the water up and along and back to the props. But if they want to change those props, we've actually written a risk assessment that we can dive in here, go lift the panel, go under the floor, change the props, because you basically shut the motors down, put a padlock on the motor so they cannot be turned on. It's standard commercial procedure. Change the props so you don't have to drain it.
Right.
So
Not quite the cave diving they're used
well,
to, maybe.
I'm just praying for the day you let me do it.
I'll promise not to turn them on at the same time.
Thanks, matey.
no
Appreciate
worries,
that. Anyway, we'll rush on because
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I see why you like to work here.
it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
It's
like
amazing,
basically
yeah.
I've been in the we call it the industry because I've literally spread across all the ACOPs. Started in recreational, went to technical, went to media, went to science, went to commercial, and gradually at each step I was actually combining those things. So when I was running the body recoveries on the Second World War planes for the science community, I was using commercial techniques to make it more efficient. And that's why I ended up getting headhunted for here. It's like, actually, you've been involved with all of them, so come in as an SME.
But this is at the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You're walking on snow that's never been walked.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Not many people have jobs like that, do they?
It's really good. This is Gemma and Ian from the Big
Hello,
Scuba
hi.
podcast.
Nice to meet you.
This is
Hi.
Adam. He's part of the R&I team, research and innovation, as is John and Jason. So they're like, in the Muppet Show, Beaker and Bunsen. They're the boffins. But they're
Great
brilliant.
job.
Yeah, I'm everywhere at the moment, so I'm building bits for this, doing stuff on the subs, doing some ROV work, and some science.
Yeah.
So you're looking to recruit all the time as you
Basically, as I said at the beginning, we've got like pretty much everyone here at the moment is like an uber expert in their field, and they are therefore a lead. And as we grow, and as soon as we start building, we'll need like hundreds more people, and they'll work under each lead.
Yes.
So when the time is right, we've got a hyperbaric doctor, Mark Glover, who was our MPL's hyperbaric physician. So he's here full time as our medical lead. All our boats for Chepstow are electric. The whole idea is a low footprint, so even the big ones. Yeah, all electric, even the big one. So that'll be our dive rib. And even the big one is all electric because basically the idea is to have campus Chepstow as as zero footprint as possible. Our founder is very, very keen on that, so it's cool.
It's lunchtime now, so Phil is taking us off for a lunch. We're heading into the staff area, and lunch is provided to the staff on a daily basis, and breakfast. They're really
which
lucky.
is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've got a gym.
Yeah,
Which
so
is really
it's
smart.
an awesome place, and there's no set hours as such because people want to work there.
Yeah, it is. They regard their employees, and treat them as adults, and they have that relationship where everyone's entrusted to do the job that they're brought in to do.
Yeah, and the atmosphere
How
there.
refreshing is that?
Yeah, we know everybody's there because they love their job.
They do, and the food was awesome.
It was really delicious.
It wasn't until afterwards I was eating something which I thought was something else.
So we had pork scallops with a lovely sauce, and it was actually gnocchi.
Yeah.
But it came to light a little later.
I thought I was eating small potatoes.
But you know what CV is. Anyway, that was a little joke of the day.
It was.
Yeah, so we had lunch, and then we jumped in the company Land Rover, nice black
Real
machine.
smart. Yeah, I like that.
And then headed over to Deep Campus, which was about, 15-20 minute journey.
Yeah, thereabouts. Go across the bridge.
Yeah.
And into Chepstow.
Yeah, so that's where we'll pick up next.
Many of us divers all know where it is. And we're now going to be meeting Christopher Griffiths.
He is the director of Deep Labs, so covers both sites.
Yeah, he's stationed on the campus and managing the development of the site. And he is going to be talking to us all about the future developments.
Yeah, and a little overview of the campus site.
Yeah.
And just from my perspective, I'm Chris Griffiths. I'm the director of Deep Labs. Deep Labs is our it's a portfolio of estates, this being one of them, Portside being the other, and anything else that we decide in the future that we're going to sort of embark on in terms of facility. Firstly, welcome to Deep. It's actually great. It's a great opportunity to have you guys here and sort of show you a little bit of our vision, but secondly, we'll take a little bit of a walk down to the water, head down the Hacker Staircase, and get onto the islands that we've built down there. In terms of the facility, we acquired this quarry probably 2 years ago. It was one of our very, very early acquisitions. And one of the things we did, it wasn't just, this looks like a good one, we'll take it. We did actually do some research around the globe to try and find something where we could carry out testing, we could carry out training, diving, etc. And what was good about this place was it's a pretty benign body of water. In terms of sea state, if you think of testing, the number of days that would be lost to bad weather, we don't really have that as a problem here. So Deep Campus will become the home of both Deep as an organisation, but also Deep Institute, which is our training human performance capability. So we've embarked on 2 sets of planning. We've got some temporary planning, and you're sitting in some of this at the moment. And the other parts of temporary planning, we've got some single bed accommodation that sort of sits out there on the real southern point of the facility. And we've also built a set of stairs that take us from the southern pad down onto the water. And those have really been our temporary type asks of the Forest of Dean County Council. Longer term, bit of history of the site. Used to be a limestone quarry. I think what I've seen is it's sort of around the very early 90s that they ceased quarrying here. I believe the stone that they used was taken in, and they used that to build the bridge. Previous owner ran it as a dive school, which no doubt everyone is aware of. And like I said, we purchased this 2 years ago. So it's 50 acres. The actual body of water is somewhere between 600 and 650 meters long, over 100 meters wide. In terms of getting a bit of perspective, southern pad, northern pad, west and east in terms of compass. Shallow end being on the northern side, deep end down on the southern side, depth ranging to about 80 meters. And when I say a range, and the reasons for that is the water levels rises and falls about 6 meters a year. So it's got a significant change over a year. Understand that it's fed from an aquifer underneath. So it's not, it's not rainwater or anything that fills it up. It's ground fed. So putting the planning, the temporary planning to one side, if we look at what we think campus will be over the next decade, we have asked for planning for a number of different buildings, and we'll start on top side first. So looking at the eastern side here, we're going to build 2 warehouses. That's going to be Deep's back office, if you like. Sort of building A here, we would look to probably around 2,000 square meters of usable space, 1,000 square meter footprint. First floor, we will use that probably for office space as we plan to build out the wider campus. And the bottom floor we would then use to use a bit of a workshop. But we start, we begin to migrate our people from port side here. So we've got everybody here. That includes our engineering teams as well. Second building, we would look to use that for things like maintenance, storage. We've got a couple of submarines, which you will have seen. The other building, most of the time, they are where they should be, on the water. And we've actually started to get that spun up now. We've had some of our people running through some trips out to get a bit of a feel, particularly our engineers that are sort of working on the submarine project or submersible project. So you obviously came up the A48. The plan will be to put 2 buildings at the entrance, and that'll be sort of our visitor center, reception, have some of our real estate folks based at the entrance. You'd come in, you'd swing through to the left, and on this real southern end, where we've currently got the accommodation, the temporary accommodation, that would become a car park. So we'd be looking to 100 and potentially 150 car parking spaces. All of this will eventually disappear. This southern pad here becomes very much an open area. And long term, we would want to put a warehouse, or we've certainly got a plan to put a warehouse down there. Where that will be sited exactly, that could vary, and the size of it could as well, potentially become smaller. What we've found is this southwestern corner here is brilliant for putting cranes. So we have mobile cranes in. We use them to launch our submarines, or to at least get them down onto sub-island. We've launched all of our pontoons from up here, so it's an ideal operational area for us. Along this eastern ridge, we've also got plans to put some accommodation. If you remember, previous owner had done exactly the same thing. So what we'd look to do is put potentially half a dozen, 2 or 3 bedroom type accommodation. The idea of that is, 1, if we have guests, 2, if we've got sort of staff here for 28 days, it's an ideal place for them to bring their families down to over a weekend, to sort of spend a bit of time with them. As we swing around now onto this western side, there's a whole road that runs from the southern pad and takes you down to what we have now built a little bit of a temporary quayside using the pontoons, these 40-ton pontoons that we've purchased. So that'll become temporary. Longer term, the idea is we grade that road, we surface it, we run utilities down it, and we have a permanent quayside from which to operate. So that's sort of our longer term vision. If you then sort of come up the high road and on this western edge, this is where we would build the majority of our single occupancy accommodation. Anything up to 60 small one-bedroom places, self-contained. And the idea there is if we have a group of people come to do a training week or 2 weeks, that is where they would reside. They'd have somewhere to store their kit, dry their kit, showers, communal areas, and that's what we would see in what we're calling Camps Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Coming further up to the northern edge, on this northwestern side, we would put our main our main operational building, and that's going to be classrooms. It's going to be auditoriums, training rooms, etc., canteen. So I would see a significant number of deep folks there, but I would also see our partners, guests, etc., spend time up there with us. The second roof you see here will be for our recreational building. And that, if you think about the human performance that we're talking about, unfortunately our human performance director's not around at the moment, but he's got many years of sort of training high performance teams in the military, Marines, etc. So that would have a pool, it would have a gym, yoga studio, etc., and that's where we'd work on people's performance. And then we've got a second potential here to actually put another building, whether that could just be an ops room. You know, you've got great visibility down from here across all of the water. When we embarked on this probably November time last year. We ran a number of consultations. One with our neighbours. We've got quite a few neighbours on this northern edge, and secondly with the council, both Forest of Dean County Council and Gloucestershire County Council. So we've brought them along this entire journey, and so far I think it's fair to say they're supportive of it. We've got all the relevant consultants lined up in terms of ecology, highways, power, water, and these guys are sort of on team now, because I would expect us to see questions, sort of come back as with any planning. There was talk about this being turned into landfill. You know, you imagine the heavy vehicles, if it had been turned into and you imagine the ecological impact as well. We're very sensitive to the ecological aspect of it. We're sensitive to highways, and people live here. You know, so it's really important we sort of fit into that. And in terms of planning for our buildings as well, we've been very, very sympathetic in terms of we're in the Forest of Dean. There's a lot of farms around here. So when you start looking at shapes and sizes of buildings, you actually start to take that into account, thinking about what it looks like around the rest of it. And I think the other piece then is tying it in with the sort of the current fauna and flora out there. Our whole existence is what can we do for the oceans, the environment. So, you know, we're not looking to do everything for the oceans and, you know, do something completely different on land. So we have been sympathetic as we've moved through this. And ecologically, you know, we know we've got quite a diverse sort of set of animals here. Longer term, and I would see this happening over decades, if you think about all the tree lines, you think of the bushes, etc. here, what we would look to do is to strip out the non-native and replant with native to Forest of Dean. So, you know, it brings it back to what it was, because if you think about the buddleia and that's growing out there, it's just an invasive species. So that kind of covers the sort of top side, if you like. When we go onto the water, and you'll get a good idea of this when we go down. We've deployed 40 ton concrete pontoons. So we've used those pontoons to to build out things like sub-island, things like a dive island, a quayside. So we're in the process of kind of configuring those at the moment. And we're going to have a little quayside down here. In this area over here, we've got a gantry crane that is actually being built at the moment. And that'll give us a 3-ton lift capability. And that 3 tons will allow us to take quads up and down, take people's diving kit up and down, save you sort of lugging it up and down the hacky staircase at the moment.
So the pontoons movable?
Yes,
Move them around the...
yes, they are. And you have the ability to raft them as well. The interesting thing is they use these particular pontoons, these concrete pontoons. They're 20 meters long and 3 meters wide. They use them in the ocean. So putting them on a body of water like that, when you step onto them, it's no different to sort of standing where you are now. They are rock solid. So we're using these to sort of build out capability on the water. And in June of this year, we'll see our first delivery of walk-to-work pontoons. So we will link these concrete pontoons up with sort of a pontoon that's 2 meters wide and 10 meters long, aluminium pontoons. And so we'll be able to sort of build walkways between all of the facilities we have down there. The last thing I want to mention is the rocks. It's a quarry, so one of the important things for us is how do we keep it safe? So there are certain areas we've netted because as human beings, we're very close to those surfaces. There are areas on the water, and you'll see this very, very clearly when you go down. We've got a 10-meter exclusion zone, and we've run buoys down the eastern and western sides of it. We worked with a geology company, and they ran some calculations that should a rock fall, what is the trajectory of that? Where does it land? And they figured out the furthest they would bounce out is 5 meters from the rock face, and therefore we sort of doubled that and said, right, we'll put a safety factor in there. So we've got 10 meters down, east, west, and it's going in around the northern edge as well. Up on the south, because we are so close to the rock face, that's all been netted. So when rocks do come down, they sort of sit behind a net.
What happened to are they all still there, or like the plane fuselage and
The answer to that is yes. So what we had to do was you've obviously dived this, so the whole road runs all the way around, right? What we did was we lifted all of them and put them on the haul road underwater. So they are there. There were a few items that didn't belong to us, and they were. We haven't seen those yet. We'll be dragging those out. So a lot, the majority of those attractions. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for Gemma. Those attractions are still kicking around down there.
So they're just staying there because it's too much to bring them out?
Well, I'm not sure whether you'd want to bring them out. There could be some value around them.
Potential usage
basically
for our dive team to train on at any level, from basically once we've got a Sentinel in there, they could be used as simulated research sites from a Sentinel excursion, but equally with our commercial team, they could be used for commercial training. So to take something like the original diving bell, which is a big object, do a controlled safe moving of it as a training exercise. So the main artefacts are all of great value to us.
So I think that sort of covers our top side.
Thanks, Chris, for giving us that talk, and it's good to hear the future plans, and
really.
Also really good to hear about the landscape, and as well that this is going to be all part and parcel,
caring for the environment.
Yeah, exactly, and especially for local residents as well. It's good to know that this site is going to be protected, and nature is all going to be encouraged.
They're all going to be at one together.
Yeah, it's not going to be some blot on the landscape here. It's going to be something really nice and for the local environment to be proud of.
Yes, yeah, and they're putting back, getting rid of invasive species.
I can't believe, that was going to be, one of the options. If Deep hadn't got involved,
Absolutely.
one of the options could have been
landfill.
Can you imagine that? That'd been horrendous.
Yeah, so it's probably a bit of an eye opener for listeners.
That was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. So after Chris spoke to us, we went down onto the waterside, down the steps, and went down onto these concrete pontoons.
Which didn't move at all.
It was super solid, yeah. And they had, there's a cover over there where the subs will sit.
I was jumping up and down to see if that could get the pontoons to
No
tip.
movement?
No, I can confirm definitely no movement. Yeah.
And we had perfect weather. It was lovely and still. The water was glassy.
It was like a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was really good just to get a feel for how it's going to develop.
They've got building on there, haven't they? It's like if you can imagine...
There were shipping containers type
shipping
of things.
containers, but also had like a garage sort of...
roofed area.
Yeah, plastic roofed garage area with winches and all sorts of stuff. So they can work on subs, when they get them on shore.
Yeah, and really interesting being down on the water, looking up at the Quarry cliff sides that had been netted. So we saw that, and then we went back up the steps and... had another sort of debrief, got rid of our PPE and safety shoes.
Got rid of that, didn't we?
And then travelled back over to the deep port side again.
Yeah, back in Bristol. So did that, and it was all good. So this is that next bit.
Yes, and we're going to meet a sub pilot now.
Ed, tell me what this is.
So this is a Triton 3K3 submarine, hull number 6 in the series. We also have hull number 7 next to it, but it is a submersible, could carry 3 passengers down to 1,000 metres or 3,300 feet.
Wow, that's a long way. Yeah.
It's a very long way, very dark down there.
So you're a sub-pilot yourself, so how deep have you been in a...
I've been maximum depth in one of these, so I've done 1,000 metre dive, but majoritively it's never really that deep. When you go that deep, there's not a whole lot to see. It's just a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is sort of up to around 500 metres is the majority of our dives.
Yeah. So tell us about the weighting and the buoyancy.
So the sub itself weighs somewhere around 9 tons, give or take. 9 tons, yeah. We have around 300 or 330 kilos of manoeuvrable weights at the front here. So depending on passengers and depths and even density of the water, we add and remove the weights just so we stay neutrally buoyant when we're in the water.
So do you always have a maximum of, so it's a maximum of 3 people?
Yeah, so pilot plus 2 passengers, and it gets pretty tight in there, but it's comfortable for a while.
Yeah.
Also, you can see on the front here we've got the manipulator arm. So that's used for taking all of the samples and things. And if there's anything cool that you want to pick up down there.
When you take samples, can you then bring them into the sphere?
No, but we do have, it's kind of a bolt-on attachment just on the side of the housing there. There's like a big basket that goes on, and then you kind of collect your samples and place them in the basket. Depending on, they're very sort of adaptable subs actually. You can have a vast array of different sensors and cameras and things mounted to the front. So depending on the type of research being conducted, we have sort of laser measuring devices, there's different cameras for recording, and there's a lot of variation.
And speed?
Speed, she reaches a sort of ground speed of about 3 knots. So
Right.
it's not the most, it's not the quickest of vehicles, but it is pretty cool when you're under there.
Yeah.
So it's very condition dependent on where you can dive as well.
And to get in it, you get through the port.
Yeah, so we have the hatch at the top of the sphere there, and you sort of climb up onto the back, and we'll go around and have a look at the back there in a minute. There's some steps leading out the back, and you sort of lower yourself in the step in the centre there, centre helm.
And power, how is it powered?
So power-wise, we have 2 large battery banks in these sort of pods here on the undersides.
consisting of 15 batteries each side. So that's 12 12-volt batteries and 3 8-volt batteries, combining on port and starboard side, giving you a total of 288 volts DC high voltage and 24 volts low voltage systems.
Great. Okay. So
yeah, so if you want, we can sort of work our way around the back.
Yep. They look quite small from the front. Well, not, and then when you come around the back, they are big, aren't they?
This is where all the machinery is.
Yeah.
The front is just like the viewing platform, effectively, and this is where all the hardware is.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
So how old are these? Are they quite new?
These ones here, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that one on these ones. I think they're probably about, they're probably around 5 years old. Maybe not quite that old, but yeah.
So like a car, it's miles. Do you just clock up hours on?
Exactly. It's usually either time-based or sort of hour-based. Some of it's even dive-based as well. After each dive, you have a set amount of maintenance to do.
What's the most amazing place you've flown your sub?
That's a tough question.
Just the business end.
Some of the best places have been South Pacific, sort of South Pacific Islands and all around there.
Yeah.
There's some pretty spectacular places.
This is the business end then, as you said.
This is certainly the business end. So out the back here, we have some additional buoyancy sort of hidden up in the wings here. All of these. This is the EJB, which is the external junction box, the electrical junction box. On the underside here is the VBT, the variable ballast tank.
So that fills up with water and...
So that's the intake for it there. So basically it's just the atmospheric pressure when you're under the water is enough to force water into the tank. And then when you want to pump it out, there is an internal pump and you literally just pump out the water until you're sort of, where you want to be, either going up or ascending or descending would be the words.
Cool.
You have, on the underside here, there's 6 very large compressed air tanks. So those are, now I have to remember.
They're those green things.
So the green ones, these 2, are the oxygen tanks. And all the 6 there,
yeah.
and these 2 black ones, these are main just compressed air tanks. So the oxygen is used for the atmosphere inside the sphere. So you just sort of gently bleed in O2 as you're breathing, basically. It works on a scrubber system, so it scrubs out some of the carbon dioxide that you exhale, and then you just tweak in a little bit of oxygen just to maintain the oxygen levels inside the sphere. And all of the air, basically, is just to bring yourself to the surface as buoyancy. So there's a lot of air for that. They actually fill up the inside of these tanks. So the whole sort of exterior shell is hollow. And that's where all of your buoyancy comes from, compressed air. So when you dive, there's some little vents on top. When you're on the surface, you open those vents, that lets the air out of those tanks and it fills them with water, and you just go down. And when you're under, you close them off. When you want to come back up, you literally just fill those with air again and sort of come up.
And how long would a flight be?
A flight could realistically be anywhere up to around about 12 hours. It normally depends on your high voltage consumption, big consumers being the lights and thrusters. Also dependent on your scrubber and O2 levels and everything. But you could make it up to about 12 hours. Life support systems inside can run for around 100 hours. So
if you did get plopped on the bottom, it would be all right for a bit.
You've got 100 hours.
Great. Okay.
That's what else have we got down the back here? So these are the back end of the battery pods, basically. We actually have one of them off at the minute, just for some work. But so there's 15 batteries inside here. These cables run up to the inside of the electrical bottle, and that's where all of the electrical systems happen. There's also another one similar inside the sphere, but that's all the low voltage systems.
Great.
That's about all we have on the back here.
Can we look inside one?
Of course. So what we'll do is, if we go back around the front, we can climb up the ladder and into number 7.
Yep. Yeah.
So this is Barry. He's deep sub lead. He's the man who's currently in.
Okay, so we'll do a bit quick interview with you, shall
Yes,
we?
yeah,
Is that all right? There we go. Right, so you recording?
But hang on a minute. Right. Where are you from?
We're from the Big Scuba podcast. So our interviews and videoing and pictures today are going to go on social media, and we're going to create a podcast today that will go out to 140 countries. So it's trying to make people aware of what's happening at the old NDAC, really, and and the future, and this amazing thing that you're doing here.
Oh no, that's cool.
Yeah. So, but obviously, only say what you can say.
It's grand. How much do you want? How long do you want?
Oh, it's only we'll just do a quick chat about what your role is here, what your history is, and and then we'll having a tour of the sub, I think.
Have you been inside the sub?
Not yet.
We just did front, back, and now we're making our way inside.
Hang on a minute.
You're gonna put translations in.
Put subtitles.
What are they trying to say?
It's not Scottish, it's Barry.
It is like a mumble.
I can't wait so much.
Right, okay, so we'll do a quick interview then? Yeah. Okay, you ready? You're on camera, are you? Yeah, okay. So your name is Barry?
Yeah, I'm looking after the subs here at Deep.
Okay.
I was with oil and gas for 20 odd years doing ROVs, and then I got a phone call off my friend who was a captain of a super yacht saying, do you want to come and look after our sub? And it was one of the similar subs that we're looking at just today, like the 3KT. These ones are 6 and 7. I looked after number 3, an earlier one, so I looked after that for about 7 years, and that was a privately owned one. And we've done a few research trips, but it was mainly just for the family's use, just going down and showing them some amazing features and stuff like.
Do you actually fly the subs?
Yeah. I've only had since I've been with Deep. I've been in the Red when we've done a mission in the Maldives. Everybody knows where the Maldives diving is, and that was with an Ecton mission. And then after that we went down to Chagos, and there's a company called Rev Ocean. I don't know if you're aware of Rev Ocean. Rev Ocean are our research firm that I've started up, and we went down to the Chagos. Chagos is islands in between the Mauritius and the Maldives.
Okay.
And it's got the biggest atoll in the world in Maldives, but there's no inhabitants right now. So basically we were going down there, and it's like there's loads of birds, there's no rats in the islands, there's loads of birds, so we saw amazing things. Like I saw a whale shark there for my first whale shark. So like in the Maldives we saw like hammerheads, like scallop hammerheads, not just like great hammerheads that are pretty like no common, like, but scallop hammerheads. And then we went to Chagos, we saw whale sharks, and we saw some treasure sharks and
all
stuff
in
like
the sub.
All in the sub.
Wow.
Aye. So like 500 metres in the red one we were at, we saw a tiger shark come in and had a wee look at us. Like it's nuts. But I say to people, like I've seen like World War II wrecks and stuff with guns pointing up with coral coming out the guns, so it actually looks like there's like shells coming out of them. But for me, the biggest joy is not actually seeing like the stuff outside the sub, it's actually seeing what happens inside the sub, like the two passengers. For me, I know I've done my job right if they're actually in tears at some points, like because like you can put the stereo on in there, and you can if you play the right song at the right time, there's people like, we've had manta rays flying around us, and we've had Lakme playing, and you can see these people. I was like, do you want to listen to that again? They'll go, oh yeah, you know what I mean? So, and for me that's like you'll see sharks and whales and like rays and stuff, and it's really, really cool. Like, and when you come out, you're like, best ever. But it's actually seeing their the passengers' expressions. That's for me. That's the big thing.
We interviewed John Chatterton a while back, and John Chatterton told us that he listened to Led Zeppelin when he went to see Titanic. Right, that would have been full on, like, no, I've got a wee bit, my playlists are a wee bit more tranquil, like, a wee bit gentler, like, but no, I'm completely, like, annoyed by him, and I don't trying to tell people what my job title is. When you're standing in a pub and they go, so what do you do? You're like, I work offshore, like, and like, so what do you? I just work on a boat. I'm not that guy standing up and go, yeah, I'm a submarine pilot, like, because
there is only 10 of these subs and there's only a few pilots involved, and it's not that I know about 4 or 5 Scottish guys that actually fly them, so the industry is actually a really small industry. But it's that thing, man, I pinch myself every day, I can't believe I'm doing this, so they're good for 1,000 metres, so incredible. Like a lot of people get in it and they only want to stay like at 100 metres, like below 100 metres and above 100 metres, because like that's all the pretty stuff is and stuff, and that's all the stuff they've seen in like on Google and magazines and and that's what they're wanting to see. And if you go to 1,000 metres, you might spend like 3-4 hours and it's completely dark, but you might only see one thing, but that thing they're going to, like the passengers say, what's that? You're like, I don't know, I've never seen that before. And you take photographs, you come up and you send it to scientists and say, what's this? They're like, we've never seen this before either. So when you see something, it's like, oh my God type things, and that's really cool. And after about 300 metres, it's pure darkness, and some places like off the east coast of America and that is dark before that. It's only dark before after 50 metres, and like when you're in tropical areas, like after 300 metres it's pretty dark, but then you'll get bioluminescence.
Because I've known you for ages. I think it would look that a lot worse. Sorry, Barry.
No, it's cool. And so after 300 metres it's completely dark, but you get bioluminescence, and it's not like the bioluminescence that you'll see on the shore.
Next, Barry's going to take us up the stairs and we're going to get inside the submarine for a tour of the inside.
Underwater comms. Right, have you used underwater comms before?
We've got full face masks.
Full face masks, so that, I think that's what, 31 and 33 kilohertz or something like that,
That's what, sorry?
On our full face masks.
Underwater comms.
I don't know what the
through water comms.
I've got no idea.
Right, where they just put a wee rubber thing in the water like that, and then you can talk to the surface.
It's just between us.
It's just between you, but you can talk between each other. So that'll probably be 31 kilohertz. That's 27 and that's 10. This is good for about 500-600 metres. We can talk to the surface exactly the way you're talking full face
with
mask.
No wire or anything?
No wire.
No.
Just the same. Just like when you're talking to each other, that's not got a wire on it. You're it's just like a transducer. It's piezoelectric. It's like when you push that electric lighter and you push the quartz, you'll get a thing out. It's just piezoelectric. It's simple. It's amazing bits of technology, but it's really simple.
Crazy.
So 27 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz. That's good for 1,000 metres. That's good for over 1,000 metres. It's just nuts. You can talk a kilometre away underwater. I tried to update it a few years ago, and I started talking to people, and they're like, yeah, we can get underwater communications. How far you want to go? It's like 1,000 metres. They're like, oh, we can do much more than that. I says, no, we only have to go 1,000 metres deep. They're like, oh no, we can't do that deep. We can do like a couple of 1,000 metres that way,
but not down.
But no down. It's the technology and the pressure difference. I'm going to show you how to get into the sub.
Okay.
Right. So through the hatch, as you say, if you reach over, you can see where I'm standing.
Yep.
That's designed for our weights. So what I'll do is I'll climb on the side, and then we'll get one of yous, whoever you want, whatever ones, and they can jump in the pilot seat.
Yep.
If that's okay, right? So when the one on the side's a wee bit more trickier, but the one in the pilot seat, just stand on that and then 2 feet on the seat, and then 2 feet the other side that pump, and then the same with this side, 2 feet on the seat. It's not a problem.
Yep. How thick is this glass?
If you reach across the side and just take your finger and put it on the sphere, please. No, the other side, and external.
Oh.
Right. This is the only time you'll ever be allowed to touch the sphere, by the way. Right, Gemma, if you touch his finger.
Oh my God.
Right.
That's crazy.
That's 6 inches thick, Is
it?
Yeah. And when you go deeper, it actually shrinks. We actually lose, it loses 60 kilograms of displacement, as it goes deeper to 1,000 metres. Right, Mark, if you never saw us how we get in, we're going to turn around and put your legs dangling in the sphere, please. No, don't grab that, Mark.
Yeah.
Right, just grab the sides of the frame, please, Right, and then just dangle your feet in. It's full on yoga, Right, 2 feet here, please. That's it, and then 2 feet on the leather seat at the back of you, please.
Hey, that was it.
What did his name? Was it
Ian.
Sorry, Ian.
It's alright, I've been called worse.
Put 2 feet either side here, please.
Just the captain's chair then, is
That's
it?
the pilot's
Wow.
chair,
Oh,
aye.
goodness.
Right, that the columns. So, in the submarine, I tell everybody this is luxuries. All the electronics are luxuries. For if you want to get to the bottom of the ocean and then come back up, you don't need any of these things. It's all luxuries.
Right.
The other side are all the important stuff. Like when you get down to the bottom and you want to drive about, the thrusters. That's a luxury.
Which you control with this?
We control with that, But as I say, that's a luxury, For you actually driving about, you can go to the bottom and come back up to the surface without using the thrusters.
Okay.
Right? And then there's we've got altimeters, we've got GPS, we've got underwater GPS, let's say with transponders. What else we've got in here? We've got the manipulator. We can recover stuff from the seabed using the manipulator. That's all luxuries, If we want to get back to the surface, the other side where your hand is, for me, this is important stuff, Like, all the black valves are air. And when I say air, and especially to scuba divers, they're immediately thinking, right, how many minutes have I got left? It's no that at all. The air is to fill up the big yellow tanks on the side, and that makes it stable. And I don't know if we've spoke about the variable ballast tank at the back.
Yes, he showed us it fills up with the water.
It fills up with the water. So the variable ballast tank is like your BSD, where you actually put a wee bit of air in it and it slows you down like air brakes. That works the same way. We pump out fluid and then we get
What's
air.
the regulator for?
That will get to there. So the air is to fill up the tanks. So if that variable ballast tank fails at 1,000 metres, I don't know if he showed you the two tanks at the back.
The green ones?
No, that's the oxygen, the black ones. There's two tanks
and then the ones on the six of them.
The six of them. So there's 8 tanks of air. So at 1,000 metres, it's going to take 40,000 litres to fill the tanks up.
Wow.
And I've actually only had to use it once before. We've done some maintenance to the sub, and we're dropping down. We're going down to 1,000 metre dive. It's like an MOT you've got to do every year.
Yeah.
So we're dropping down to 1,000 metres, and switched on the pump. It didn't work. And there's 800 metres it switched on. It didn't work. 900 metres didn't work. And so we start filling up the tank. So you start using the two at the back first. Well, that's running out. So I've opened this valve here, the bank isolate, and that's just allows us to get the bottles underneath and in the tanks. And the guy sitting here was like, whoa, you can't touch that, it's an emergency. And the guy sits there like, this is an emergency. I'm like, yeah, this is an emergency. So we've actually used the air there. And so, but we actually stopped about 980 metres and we're all stable, everything's good. We're like, right, let's go back up, we'll fix the problem with the pump. We came back up, fixed the problem with the pump and then dropped back down. So basically it was at 1,918 metres and I did, so I got nearly 2,000
So let's get this
metres.
right, you have to drop down to 1,000 metres to check it works.
Well, if you're doing an MOT, you're doing an MOT, if you're doing an MOT...
Yeah, but when you do an MOT on a car, you're now down at 1,000 metres.
No, definitely, but and you can't test your brakes, how do you test your brakes, it's the same,
Brake test.
But it's this thing, the full ocean sub,
Yeah.
you've got to test that,
Yeah.
and there's always going to be some person to test it,
Yeah.
But the thing is, as I say, you've got your VBT, that's your primary way to actually adjust your depth,
Right.
because if you want to go deeper, it's like you dump some air.
Yeah.
So you take on a wee bit more water, and if you want to go lighter, so if that fails, then you've got the backup.
Yeah.
That's putting air in there. If that fails, there's a you can see the pumping between the legs there.
Yeah.
Right, we can
This,
pump off
like a handbrake?
that handbrake there. It's not a handbrake. It's actually a pump. It's a hydraulic pump.
You can't do handbrake turns.
You can drift round the corner and stuff
So is that where you pump?
You can pump off the battery pods, and we can eject the battery pods. We can eject the manipulator, and we can eject but that's a get out of jail card, because we can put air. We can come up and we can always use the like an air compressor, same as your scuba dive, to fill up the air tanks. But we can't just go into Tesco's and buy another battery pod. So that's like your get out of jail card, and that's like the last thing.
And that would take you up to surface.
Oh, you'll just and there's no stopping you. So, and that's the thing. That
You'd be a bit messed up by the time you hit the surface.
nah, because it's actually designed to go. It'll reach a terminal
So
velocity.
kind of
No, I won't go like that. I'll just go straight up, but I'll reach a terminal velocity and I won't go any faster.
Really?
And this is designed. The sphere is. It looks really fragile. It is fragile, but it's really soft.
So it won't keep increasing speed.
No, I'll get to a certain speed and then I'll just reach terminal velocity. Same as like when
Does
you're
it
at school.
matter how deep you are?
No, it's the same as like when you're at school when you dropped the marble into the glycerine and into water. It just reached a certain velocity and it never got any faster.
No, I don't remember doing that.
Terminal velocity. It's the same as yourself though. If you start plummeting down, you'll actually just you'll get what's called terminal velocity.
It's like skydiving.
Skydiving, you'll get to a certain limit and you won't go any faster. And these things are.
Well, you don't. When you jumped out of the plane, you didn't go. Once you got to a speed, you got to a speed.
I'm not crazy enough to do it.
Well, there you go.
Parachute jump.
Right, but so the sphere, as we mentioned before, actually shrinks and expands.
Yes.
So as that comes up, and it's actually designed to actually expand as the fastest terminal velocity.
I can't remember who it was. It was something on telly. I don't know if that was James Cameron.
Right.
Somebody's sub was leaking, and then when they got to about 400-500 meters, the leak, and they knew it leaked. The leak then stopped because it got to a certain pressure. And
you think everyone's squashing like the sphere, as I say, the sphere's shrinking all the time as you drop down, and the seats and all this frame is actually sitting on the acrylic. So this is all moving. So as you go down, you get.
You do hear it.
You hear it creaking like it's just these moving on it but as that comes down, everything's shrinking and getting it out. And it's like with the lights, you'll get like a ground fault in the light sometimes, and at depth, sometimes that fault will disappear.
What do we get? So what comes on the screen here?
On the screen, I'm just thinking. We'll get it up. Right, so as I said, this is all luxury. This is like the greatest luxury you've got, because we could fly the submarine. We've got PLC bypasses. We've got thruster enabled. We've got bypasses so that we can actually control the sub without needing this.
Oh wow!
Right, but along the sides here we've got is that cabin CO2.
Yeah.
So there's the monitors there. So we've got their sensors. So we've got a whole bank of sensors and stuff here. Like we've got doing the dive. We've got the depth, and the depth is as you drop down. But then we've got the altimeter, and the altimeter is actually how far off you're off the seabed. So what will happen is that when you leave the surface, you'll have a reading of say 200 meters here. But then when you're halfway, you'll have 100 here and 100 there. So you actually it'll go like that. But you're actually sitting on top of the altimeter. It's a big huge thing.
What would be really cool is a head-up display on there, telling you your depth.
I know, but if it's on there,
you're not going to see anything.
But if it's there, that'll be really cool. But then when you actually want to see the fish,
giving you depth.
When you want to see a fish, then it's going to
interrupt
it.
And then you could have AI built into it that identifies certain fish. And go, this is, because as a tourist then, you can say, hey, certain shark.
There we go, man. You found a niche. Yes, definitely.
I'll have a word with Dean. Can I come on as a...
Can I come for the next something? I've got so many ideas.
So when you're going descending, do you feel the change in pressure? Do people nothing at all?
So it keeps the same amplitude.
And if you switch the lights off, it doesn't matter you're at 100 meters. If it's dark, it doesn't matter if you're 100 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters. You just and it's only when you switch the lights on that it's like when when you're driving in fog or like in snow and it's that stuff coming towards you. It's basically that when you're dropping down, and then it's same as like when you're dropping down in your scuba and you put a wee bit of air in it, that stuff you can actually notice it doesn't go and you're like, oh hang on, that's slowing down. It's the same with this. You've got to put a light on to see it. We've not got any indication how fast we're dropping down.
So do you scuba dive?
I've done some scuba diving. I was at Plymouth University and I've done my HSC Part 4 course, and I've not done much scuba diving since then. I've done some dives in what was the last time? Was it Fiji or something? It was the last dive, and that was just incredible.
But this is better.
For me, the scuba diving, it's that whole thing where you're concentrating your breathing. That whole I went to my local scuba diving club and I sat for an hour in a swimming pool just facing the bottom of And like after an hour, they came and tapped me and said, "Come in, you're like, you know, bored?" I was like, "No, I was just concentrating and breathing that." And I came out, I was the mellowest. Like I didn't have to go and do yoga that night because I was so it was so cool. Like so, the submarine is just amazing. Like, and we've spoken about like some of the things we've seen. But the two of them, it's like comparing skiing and snowboarding. Skiers think they're as best, snowboarders think they're best, but it's actually just getting in the water. It's just the experience of water. Encouraging. That's a barometer. So as the pressure just increases, Aye. So if you've got an air leak, that pressure will increase. So it's just another way of making sure there's any problems.
So you've got an analogue back sort of check and the digital check.
Aye.
That's good, isn't it?
So it's the same with the air, like and the oxygen. So you've got your oxygen there, So the air here, but the oxygen's just bled in at metabolic rate. And you just at 1.5, that's half a litre per minute
LPM?
per person, Aye.
What's LPM air?
Litres per minute.
Okay.
So if we're sitting down there, and I spoke to Mark, I says, "Mark, you must have done some boring dives." He went, "Yeah, I've actually fell asleep one dive before." Like, so you must have done a couple of boring dives yourself. Where like I know in the Plymouth Sound, that when I done my HSC course, you actually get given a scaffolding pole and a hacksaw, and you just like get in there, just saw that through just to get the minutes in. Like, where if this was a boring dive where there was nothing much to see and it's like really barren, I would have to adjust the oxygen down because we'd be using that as oxygen. But then if we're on a big shipwreck, there's hammerhead sharks coming in and I've got the music playing and we're having a party, I've got to adjust the oxygen, I've got to like full on, and you just constantly adjust it. This is an
analog depth gauge as well.
Depth gauge, you can see that's good for 1100 metres. You've got another one on your other side.
Ooh.
And then we've got the pressure transducers, that'll be red in here. Like,
so you've got backup for backup.
Yeah, so if one fails, we can continue to dive. If two fails, then that's it. We'll just like call the dive.
Is there like a big red button that says cancel everything, we're going up? That you can hit.
It's the eject button. This is a eject seat, like so if the passenger's sitting here, and it's just like, yeah, I've seen that fish before, I've been this dive, I've done that dive, we can actually push that button and it'll just eject right out the submarine. I'm only kidding on, like, no, that's like for eject, no. To get to the surface, we come to the surface fast, it's the same, we'll just put you in the tanks and we'll just come up fast, like
So in terms of deep, your role here, eventually you'll be in NDAC piloting these?
I've done 3 dives in NDAC, so deep, what is it, we move at pace or we change with pace, so we constantly, like, as we evolve, we constantly have to change, like, so the idea was we start teaching people at the old NDAC thing, and then it was like, no, we're going to send the subs off to Lapshack Weed. Lapshack Weed Islands are just above the Maldives, and then it's like, no, that's cancelled, we're going to, and right now we're like, are we going to go back, start using NDAC again, or are we going to see another mission and stuff, So it's just the same as yourself, like you'll be doing one podcast with somebody else and then the next week, oh no, we're going to go and do another podcast. The things are constantly evolving. It's one of the good things about working with Deep, it's just that and the amount of the people that's working here too, like if you go up the stairs with all these engineers, it's like being in a room full of, you know, the guy out of the Matrix that just see ones and zeros, there's a full room of them, like, and that thing too is normally when you meet a genius and you start talking to them, you must have met them yourself, like scuba diving guys that you think they're the best scuba diver in the world, and you're just like, oh,
you did, didn't you?
but you know that one that they think they're that great, they're just full of their own self-importance. But the guys up there, they're full on some of the best engineers in the whole world. And they're working for us, and not one of them's got an ego. Like everybody's really mellow. Like it's so cool. Like so the best scuba diver in the world.
Well, that's been amazing, hasn't it?
Awesome. Never sat in a submarine.
No, that's first today. Yeah, love to. So I can't imagine people being rich enough to have one of these on their boat.
They are about.
So the guy I used to work for. Really nice guy, really compassionate. He'd always be like, thanks very much, I really enjoyed that.
That's amazing.
And it wouldn't just be like, you know, when you watch these TV shows with rich people, and it's just like, and you're just like, oh my God, as you get rich, you just turn into an idiot. No man,
Not
this
always
guy,
true.
no, and it's no. This guy was so cool, like, and then you just go down for dives, and his wife was actually more in than him, like, his wife would just come out. She, like, when we saw Dumbo octopus, she was crying and stuff, like, Dumbo octopuses are so you like when
They
you
are
actually
awesome, though,
when
aren't
you
they?
Google them, when we watch stuff, the lighting doesn't actually show how you like. So when you see it for real, like, it's just incredible, like.
I've only seen one in the wild,
Have
and
you?
that was on the deck of the Thistlecall.
Oh, right.
And that was amazing. I could have just sat there all day just watching this octopus.
Aye, it's
Amazing.
just incredible.
Well, it's another
like,
world, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
Aye.
So, rebreathe the
Regulators.
So, if somebody's
Got one
had
that side, and we got
one that side,
And one
there's
behind
another,
you.
and there's another one behind
oh
you.
yeah, it's three.
Right, so if somebody's had loads of chickpeas the night before, like a spinach kebab, right, it's basically an enclosed place, like, no, it's like if there's an emergency, like, because we've got electronics
There's always
in here.
peas.
garlic.
Garlic today.
Sorry.
Right, so, but if there's electronics here, so basically these are for emergencies. If the internal atmosphere was to become contaminated, we put them in and start breathing. But they
I'm
would
just
actually,
saying, good choice. The regulators on
Apex.
Apex.
they would
50
actually,
years.
they would actually start, but that would increase the pressure in here. It would,
Yeah.
bless you.
Excuse me.
That would, we don't want that pressure increasing.
No.
So underneath your seat, you want to be able to see it. There's a metal
case.
the metal case.
Yeah.
That's like it's like a mine escape, and it's like a big massive free breather, and the first breath you take into that's going to give you enough oxygen for an hour using that rebreather, like.
Wow.
So these are only until we can get the escape hoods on it.
I noticed you got a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Would you use that underwater?
Right, that's a water mister, and we've had loads of discussions that because there was a halotron, but when it came to the UK there was a halotron.
So
fire
that just
extinguisher there.
literally gives off a vapour,
a water vapour,
Right.
But the halotron's actually got poisonous gas in it, like, so it'll put the fire out, but it could really cause you damage, So we spoke to our class, the people at the MOTs, and they're like, no, the water mister will do it, like,
But you got lots of electrics.
Well, that's the thing, like, you've got your fire triangle, and like the first thing you're taught is like if you've got your fire triangle, heat, fuel and oxygen.
Yeah.
So if you take away any one of that triangle, that will dissipate, like, so if you take away the heat, you just turn off the power.
Yeah.
So that's the heat away, and the first thing you're going to do is switch off the oxygen too,
Yeah.
So then you're left with the fuel. And
If you turn your power off, do you turn your oxygen off at the same time?
No, this one said that's all luxuries. This is all the stuff we need, and this is all just manually.
So basically, you could cut all the electrics,
and then
you'd
turn
still
the
have
valves.
and you still have oxygen.
Underneath here, you can see the green valve there.
Yeah.
That's how I would switch off the oxygen. So it would kill the oxygen straight away, right? So I would say, right, guys. So if there's a fire, say, right, guys, put these on. Because it's contaminated, going to kill the oxygen. So not kill the oxygen, we're going to shut the oxygen off.
Yeah.
So we're breathing this, get the escape hoods on, the oxygen's going to stay off the whole time.
Yeah.
So then there's no chance of like erupting
Reigniting,
again.
yeah.
The heat's off, but everything we bring in here has got to be
Fire retardant.
Fire retardant, like some of the clothes you wear is not going to be fire retardant, but it's that whole thing is like we try to maintain.
Yeah.
So as you come in as a pilot or as a passenger, you'd be asked to not wear certain materials, I guess.
Nah, but it's not that strict. Like, we can go that strict,
Right.
but it's that thing of like you're not going to be near that much electricity here, and it's that thing where the buttons are there to switch off.
Because obviously there's a lot of money employed with something like this. How much is something like this, would you say?
If you want to buy one, it'll be $4 million.
$4 million.
Aye. Right, but then at the back of you, the black bag.
Yep.
The black bag.
Yes.
Inside that black bag, we've got a lithium burn bag. So basically, if your battery bank was to just like fail and start just like going on fire, we've got like a bag. We grab that bag out, chuck the battery, the lithium battery in there, like the same with the lithium battery here. Because if you think about it, like we've got an acrylic sphere here. So what are you going to do with it? You can't just chuck it on the bottom of this acrylic sphere and just hope for the best. It's just going to melt a hole in the bottom of it, like aye. So yeah, aye.
So much thought gone into this.
Oh no, definitely. Like, aye.
Amazing.
It is, yeah, it is. Because you think, what, that's a spaceship, and it's a spaceship, is what it is. you know.
I tell people it looks James Bond, but it's really a big tractor. And I know you're saying, going, no, it's no, and you're saying this is amazing.
I bet it's like driving a combine harvester, isn't it?
But the thing is, though, is we're in like the deepest darkest depths in South Polynesia. If it's complicated, you can't just take it to the BMW dealer and ask them to just plug it in and actually just say, go and service that for me. It's got to be able to get serviced on like in remote places.
Yeah.
So everything's got to be simple and it's got to be robust.
Yeah.
And like one of the things with cars these days is like they're really complicated, but they're not very robust. They've got so many things that go wrong with it. I've got electric sliding doors in my van. And I was like, that's really cool. I was like, it's just something else to go wrong. Like, So, and this is what I say. This all these valves are really, to me, these are important ones, because these are all just manual control valves. These will get you back to the surface. These will, like, there's a regulator there to take the high pressure oxygen to low pressure oxygen. If that was to fail, we can actually shut off the regulator supply and then just open up valves and just gently open them just to give us low pressure oxygen. So there's like, and then each of these valves are isolation valves. So if that gauge was to fail, we can close off that gauge. We can close off certain circuits and stuff.
Wow. Well, I have to say thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
My pleasure.
It's been awesome.
And learn, because it's just amazing.
One of the best bits of the day. It's just
I'm going to switch that off. Right, what I'll do is I'll take your camera and I'll take photographs of you inside. I'll take your phone to you. Right, I'll get photographs of you.
Okay, thanks to Barry for showing us around the submarines, and thanks for watching the video so far. We come towards the end, and we want to say thanks to Phil Short for showing us around.
Yeah, for hosting us for the whole day. It's been amazing.
Thanks to Chris for giving us the guided tour around the campus and that in-depth chat and talking about the future of the site. It's amazing to hear about they're going to look after the landscaping and things like that, and why burn the local environment to look after the ocean?
Exactly.
They are both equally as important. So one can't do without the other. So it's vital.
And we thank you to all the staff that we met along the way.
Yeah,
there were loads of people in that warehouse,
and it's amazing that they were thinking about turning that. The previous owners were thinking about turning that campus, that site.
Oh, the lake. Yes.
Site.
Yeah. So, but it was just the positivity of staff in general,
brilliant.
And the motivation was just really
good.
What do you call it? Makes you motivating.
Everyone's motivated, and everyone's got that small company going to be going far mentality, And
but it was infectious, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how it made you feel, and excited for the future, and everything this is deep is going to do for the future of the oceans, exploration, human factors involved. It's just huge thing.
There's a lot of people getting involved, and I would say to you, if you're not already following them, get to their social media, make sure you are following them, and I think you're going to see some exciting things for the future. I've seen a recent quote of somebody saying they are NASA of the underwater, and I agree, they are. I think you'll be seeing a lot of interesting things come from there.
There are so many similarities between underwater activity and the activity that we've already pursued in space.
We have seen comments, we have had feedback, and of people sending us DMs, saying, oh, when are we going to dive there, and are we going to have the site back and things like that. And you got to think deeper. You got to think. It's going to be more than a dive site, and it's going to, it's at a good cause. There's going to be good things happening from it, and we have got some other great dive sites around the UK, around our coastline, in our inland sites.
Yeah, but ultimately the deep is for everybody's benefit.
It is, so it's going to be for a much bigger, wider cause.
It is, and you've got to look at the bigger picture.
It is, absolutely. Lastly, we need to say thank you very much to our good friends at Narc.90, who we mentioned at the start. Beyond Technical, go to narc.90.com, use our Big Scuba code, Big Scuba 2024.
Yep, for purchasing any dive equipment. They cover recreational equipment as well as lots of technical equipment for divers and dive computers as well. And they are a service centre as well for your dive computers.
Yeah, any dive computers, you've got any problems, give them a call or send them an email. All the contact information's on their website. Just go to narctech90.com. All right, they've got a brilliant reputation. So, and we are very proud to be partnered with them.
Definitely,
so that's really good.
And then we also recommend you to go to our podcast channel, The Big Scuba. We've done interviews with Phil Short, who was our host at Deep, and Kurt Crack, who's the human performance lead there. So if you go back and listen to their episodes, they'll give you some more background to their diving background, really.
Yeah.
And just how, amazing their background is in terms of Phil Short. He was done like
two very different divers. One has got expertise in free diving, and if you look up performance free diving, you'll find all things about Kirk and the different films he's been involved in. Avatar 2, and done some amazing work with James Cameron. So look him up, and obviously, and then you got Phil Short, who does some amazing deep dives.
Yeah, he's covered so many areas of diving, commercial as well as recreational cave diving. So, and he's like 6,000 plus dives. Rebreather work. Yeah, so it's just incredible.
Yeah, so look out for them. And we want to say thank you for sticking with us and for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below, and share, tell your friends. So spread the word.
Yep, thanks for watching.